Kristen Koehler is with us, IUP Lively Arts. We have not had you in studio for quite the long time. We're privileged.
I know. I've been a call-in person for quite a while, but, it feels good to be out and about again.
Well, it's good to have you. Our conversation brought to you by Marcus & Mack, a law firm representing injured people. And we do have somebody on phone. Introduce our phone caller this morning.
Sure, I'm happy to. This is Darren Stevenson. He's the artistic director for Push Physical Theater. And they are bringing in a production at 8 p.m. this Thursday night in Fisher Auditorium.
Wow. Darren, good morning.
Well, good morning. Thanks very much for having me.
It's good to have you on the studio, on the line with us here this morning as we talk IUP Lively Arts. And this show coming up, you said, Kristen, on Thursday?
On Thursday, yeah.
Right. Introduce the show for us.
Well, I'd like to ask Darren to do that.
Okay.
And I thought it might be a good idea, since I don't know that a lot of people are familiar. The name of the company is Push Physical Theater. Mm-hmm. If he could talk a little bit about what we could expect. What is physical theater?
All right, Darren, the ball's in your court.
Sure. So I'm actually calling in right now from chilly New York. And in about an hour, we're going to be in rehearsal, which for us is physical theater. So it's really, if audiences haven't seen this art form before, it is, there's a lot of people climbing on each other, a lot of acrobatic, athletic things, throwing people around on stage. It's a lot of fun, but then there's this sort of narrative structure, right? So it feels like I'm watching a play. I know who the characters are. I know what's happening. And then my wife and I are the company directors, the artistic directors, and we've been working together now for well over 20 years. And so a lot of the work comes out of our own lives. So it deals with raising children and being in love for a long time, with all of the ups and downs that long-term relationships have, and all of that kind of material gets woven in. So so it's a lot of fun.
Well, my goodness, it sounds almost like studio wrestling with a better storyline.
Yeah. Oh, and I'll tell you what, for us, it's about as painful as wrestling.
Well, as long as no one's coming off the top rope at you, I think we're pretty good. How many people are we talking about in a cast of this sort?
Yeah, there's 5 of us together, and so my wife and I, and then our 3 really able company members.
My goodness gracious. Kristen, where did you come across this amazing type of performance art?
Have several relationships with different agents, booking agents, mm-hmm. and had a great conversation with Robin Klinger, and she mentioned this company, and I looked at more of the video that was available online and just found it really interesting. I have a theater background, and seeing something called physical theater really intrigued me, mm-hmm. because, I think we're more used to a story being told, in certain ways. And to see a narrative come through in body form, physical storytelling was mm-hmm. something I hadn't quite seen before. And I just found it really interesting, and I think it's a good idea to expose people to all different kinds of art forms. And I think I read somewhere, Darren, are you only one of 13 companies stateside that does physical theater?
Well, it may be less than that. We're a Backstage Magazine did an article on the top 13 physical theater companies in the world. And we were on that list, which was exciting for us. But yeah, and it's, Kristen, it's interesting. And by the way, just for your audience, Kristen and I have never met. This is like, we've never met.
Several phone calls.
Yes. So other than phone calls, so this will be exciting. But the interesting thing about physical theater is, because it's a physical form, it's really visceral, and it's kind of primal, really. Because if you think about human history, even before humans started using language to communicate with each other, they gathered around fires and they told stories by moving. And then after that, we started, painting on the walls of caves, telling our stories of hunting and and feasting and meeting and communicating. And so when you take an audience back to that, even though the art form is new, it kind of harkens back to something far more primitive. So it's an exciting thing to be part of.
Darren, is the story that we're going to see on Thursday the same story you've been telling for a while, or do the stories change?
There are several different pieces that we'll perform. One of them that I'm excited about doing, because I have not performed this since prior to COVID. My youngest son is in the Army. He's actually in special operations. He's an Army Ranger. And you can imagine as parents, I'm both incredibly proud and constantly terrified, especially if he's overseas and we don't know where he is and what he's doing. And so I created a piece called The Soldier, which honors not only his journey, but other veterans that have served. And it's an amazing thing. I think every single time that I perform it, especially I've performed this piece when he's been overseas, and I constantly think about the immense blessing it is for me to be able to, for my living, for my job, I get to be on stage and just entertain people, which seems like such a ridiculous thing that's what I get to do. And the reason I get to do it is because of men and women who are willing to fight and often die, so that I can have that freedom.
I have family members in exactly the situation you just described. I would guess that the way that you describe it, that you have to be pretty athletic, pretty fit in order to do this, and that the aging process eventually catches up to the performers in this genre.
Well, it's funny. So I'm in my late 40s now, and most people are well retired by my age. So my wife and I have been very lucky that we are still in shape to do this. But I'll tell you, with each passing year, it gets harder and harder. And when you're on stage, you look a lot younger than you are, because you got a little makeup on, you got the cool costume, the lighting is great, and so I look like I'm 28 years old from a distance from the audience, and then of course people meet me in the lobby and say, "Oh, you look older than you did 10 minutes ago."
I say the same thing. I say the same thing about my lawn. When people drive by it at 55 miles an hour, it looks pretty good, but if you stop and you look, it's nothing but weeds.
Yes, exactly. I both look and feel a bit like grass. Yeah, I feel like I've been walked all over by the end of the show.
Well, didn't you say, Darren, one of the things I found interesting when we were chatting about the piece, The Soldier, didn't you say that your son actually helped you fine-tune things to give it more accuracy, that, we weren't so much looking at a Hollywoodized version. So I'm really excited to see the authenticity, and I think that's going to be great. Can you talk a little bit about the process?
Yeah, it was really interesting. This piece took me several years to create, and you're trying to evoke in the audience a feeling of authenticity. And of course, for somebody like me, my exposure to combat is generally watching it in movies. Mm-hmm. And as much as you try to be authentic, it just isn't. And so my son was super helpful. He spent hours saying, just saying, this is how we respond to contact. This is how we hold the weapon. Dad, you cannot pull the pin out of a frag grenade with your teeth. John Wayne can do that. But if you try that with a real grenade, you're more likely to pull out your teeth than the pin. So I'm like, okay, all right, fine. I'll work on this. And so I've actually had the pleasure of him being able to sit in the audience and watch it. And then I'll always get a couple of pointers afterwards that help. And I think, it's not just for that piece, but really for anything that we perform. It's important that that you honor the experience that people actually have.
Yeah.
Because everybody's an artist, right? Like, I can draw a picture or I can sing a song in the shower, and nobody has to see my picture or listen to me sing in the shower. And so it doesn't matter whether it's good or bad. It doesn't matter whether it's authentic. It just matters how it feels to me. But the moment that I'm asking an audience to give up their time and their money to sit in a theater and watch, now it's a conversation. And it's important that we perform with the respect that is due to somebody who is telling a story, right? There's a responsibility there, and I'm still consider myself very blessed to have this platform, because I get to, for better or worse, influence far more people than I probably should be allowed to. And so, I take that seriously too.
Just a moment left with Kristen and Darren. Kristen, give us the show specifics now.
Sure. It's this Thursday at 8 p.m. in Fisher Auditorium. There's still plenty of tickets left. They're only $10 each. And people are invited to go online at www.iup.edu/livelyarts and then click on the link for ticketing.
Well, it sounds like it's going to be a wonderful evening.
Oh, I think it's going to be great. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, and it's been so long since we've had the opportunity to see something on stage. But certainly this time, this seems so unique that it's going to be a great, great evening.
I think it's going to be wonderful. I can't wait.
Darren, thanks so much for visiting with us today.
Thank you so much. I got to run. I'm going to do a couple of hundred push-ups between now and the performance.
Attaboy. Don't pull anything, okay?
Better you than us.
All right, I'll be careful.
It is the voice of Indiana County, WCCS 101.1 FM, AM 1160. Kristen Koehler, thanks so much. Good to see you again.
Good to see you, too. Thanks for having me.
We're glad you've been able to come in and visit with us. It is the voice of Indiana County, WCCS, the County WCCS.